Last one's very short. This is by anyone who knows me will not be surprised when I say it's by my beloved Algernon Blackwood. It's just an anecdote, really, but I've made it an anecdote within an anecdote. Because I did a little show about Blackwood many years ago, and he had a very interesting life. He started writing late. He became the preeminent writer of supernatural and weird and strange fiction in the kind of 10s and 20s and 30s of the 20th century. And then in the 1930s, he suddenly became a radio star, telling his own stories, by which time his actual creative life was long past. But he had such a massive body of work. He could tell as many stories as he wanted. And then, of course, when television started to kick in, this happened. So this is Algernon Blackwood. If you don't know him, his two most famous stories probably are The Wendigo, based on the Native American or strictly Native Canadian myth about the nature spirit, the ravening nature spirit, and The Willows, one of the most extraordinary stories about the awesome power of nature. So, this is Blackwood. You have to use your imaginations a wee bit at the end here. In 1947, at the age of 78, Blackwood, the pre-war radio star, became an instant television star when he was invited to tell a favorite story live on Halloween night. And he would have been sat much as I am now. A good many years ago, London was full of talk of theories of disappearance. I think the most popular one was the question of higher space, that there is another dimension of space at right angles to the three we know, and you slip into it. Well, you just vanish. Now, this is what happened to the Curate and the Stockbroker. It happened at a country house in Kent. There was a large weekend party of some kind, a lot of people. It rained a great deal on the Friday and Saturday, but on Sunday it got better, and the clouds began lifting a bit, and the stockbroker and the curate thought they'd get some exercise, so they went out for a tramp. I don't think they had much in common to talk about, but they got their exercise, and on the way back a shortcut tempted them. It was across a great turnip field, but it would save half a mile. Well, they started off across the turnip field in single file. In the distance, they could see the lights in the windows of the house, and tea. It was a misty autumn evening, and dusk was falling. They started ploughing across the heavy, wet turnip leaves, and a third of the way over, someone called out behind them, "Come with me." But when the curate, who was walking behind, turned to see who had spoken, there wasn't anybody there. No one. And there wasn't cover enough even to hide a dog. His companion, oddly enough, hadn't heard the voice. They stomped on together. But the curate was puzzled. He was more than puzzled. He was an ardent, sincere type of chap and felt uneasy. No echo could explain the sound. Why hadn't his companion heard the call? That "come with me" disturbed him. It seemed addressed to himself, he thought. He didn't like it. Nor did he like a curious cold that was creeping through the atmosphere in spite of the heat of his body from the exercise. And he knew that voice would come again. It did, louder than before. "Come with me." He stopped dead. And again his companion hadn't heard it. He wanted his tea and dry clothes. He was tired too. "Oh, it's the noise of our boots against the leaves, the heavy, wet leaves. Oh, come along, damn it, man. Let's get home." They went on in silence. The curate's uneasiness had deepened. A dreadful fear was growing over him. He was scared in his bones. He couldn't explain it, and that made it worse. But he felt that when the voice came again, and he was sure it would, something awful, something appalling would happen. He was ready, listening attentively, ready to turn on the instant. And just 50 yards later, it came, close against the back of his head, against his very neck, much louder, like a command, a summons, a dreadful note of authority in it. "Come with me." He was round on the instant, staring over the great turnip field. No one was visible. Then he turned back to his companion, and his heart missed a beat. His companion wasn't beside him. He wasn't there. His pipe, with smoke still curling up, lay quietly on a big turnip leaf. But the man who had been puffing it a moment ago had disappeared. No trace of that unfortunate stockbroker was ever seen again from that day to this. As the lights in the studio dimmed, a subtle camera dissolve made Blackwood seem to vanish, leaving only his empty chair behind. And his disembodied voice was heard to say, "How simple, how wonderful."